The French TV show Call My Agent is full of French workplace vocabulary.
C'est pas toi qui pars, c'est moi qui te vire. T'es viré!
Okay, geez, I hope you never hear something like that. But whether you're hoping to land a job in a French workplace or are already working, I'm going to share with you the most important French workplace vocabulary words so that you can feel confident in a French-speaking work environment. I'm Kritika from FluentU, and we want to help you learn French through real-world videos so that you can speak just like a native. In this video, we will go over technical terms on talking about jobs, vocabulary for when you're at work, including words about money, cultural notes, and lots of examples, including clips from the French TV series Call My Agent, or Dix Pour Cent. Knowing this vocabulary is essential to fitting in at your French workplace because you're going to hear it all the time. So, for some reason, French has a lot of words for job and work. The simplest comes from the verb travailler, which means to work. So, un travail is a job, and le travail means work. So, if you say je suis au travail, it means I'm at work. Un boulot is another way of saying job, and when I first learned this word, it was taught to me as a small job that you might do before your career gets started. But I've honestly heard un boulot refer to any type of job. It's just more casual than un travail. And je suis au boulot is another casual way of saying I'm at work. Note the nuance though, if you're referring to the tasks that you had to do during the day, you can say j'ai fini mon travail, I finished my work, but j'ai fini mon boulot doesn't really make any sense. A fun little expression that comes from the word boulot is métro, boulot, dodo, which basically means metro, work, sleep. Dodo comes from the first two letters of the verb dormir, to sleep. This basically just means the daily grind. If someone asks you during a really average work week, ça va? You could say bof, métro, boulot, dodo, meaning you're not really doing much besides working. You might also want to use the word en poste to describe a specific job or placement, like un poste vient de se libérer à la poste. So en poste is a job or a job opening, and la poste is the post office. You can use une carrière to talk about a career, and un métier basically means a trade or occupation, and it's generally used to describe a field of work.
Transformer mon métier en art, tout simplement, en gardant vraiment ma matière.
Of course, not all jobs are full-time, so here are some words to describe the distinctions. Plein temps is full-time. Mi-temps is part-time, not me-time. Salarié means a salaried employee. And un or une freelance is a freelancer. To use plein temps and mi-temps in a sentence, you would use à. Je travaille à plein temps. There's also un contrat de durée déterminée, a fixed-term contract, which is often abbreviated to CDD, and un contrat de durée indéterminée, a contract of undetermined length, which is abbreviated to CDI. A common way you would see this used in a sentence is with en. Je vais être embauché en CDD. Other types of contracts in France would be en stage, which is an internship, which in France is usually a full-time position and it's paid. An intern is un or une stagiaire, or you might also be an apprentice, an apprenti. Oh, that's so cool, because apprendre in French means to learn. For our first cultural note, a cool thing that exists in France is une alternance.
2 semaines par mois, Max est en cours et prépare son diplôme. Le reste du temps, il est en entreprise.
In this program, you spend half of your month getting your education and the other half as a paid professional in a company. At the end, you walk out with both a diploma and work experience, making it a really great choice for anyone who wants a more hands-on college experience. Whether you want to describe what kind of company you're working at, are sifting through job postings, or are working with other companies at your job, it's important to know how to describe the different types of businesses. Since some of these are pretty intuitive, let's just do a matching activity because I'm sure you can figure them out. So I'll start with what looks like a cognate. Une multinationale is a multinational company. Then we have une maison mère. Don't think too hard about this one. The mère indicates that it's a parent company. Une société à responsabilité limitée. The limité gives me a hint that this is a limited liability company, an LLC. Then we have une association à but non lucratif, but means goal and non lucratif means not profitable. So this one means a non-profit organization. PME stands for Petite et Moyenne Entreprise, which is pretty similar to small and medium-sized businesses, SMB. And that leaves us with the last one, une société par action, which is a joint stock company. Great job! So, unlike in the US, talking about your job in France is not seen as good small talk. Especially if you're building a new friendship or relationship, it's seen as socially awkward if you try to ask someone about their job too early, so make sure you keep this in mind. Alright, so now you've gotten to your workplace, what are some words that are going to be useful on your day-to-day? We have some basic ones like le bureau, the office, and l'imprimante, the printer. Depending on the type of job you're working, you might also work with un client or une cliente.
Et c'est un véhicule, on a mis une technologie très utile pour le client.
So once during my internship in Paris, my boss walked up to me and said very quickly and quietly, "On fait un point?" And I had no idea what that meant, so I just smiled and nodded, and it ended up being a meeting of some sort, but I didn't know that faire un point actually has some nuance to it. Faire un point means to have a progress meeting or a check-in. You may also hear the term une mise au point, which literally means a bringing into focus. So this is used for meetings that update, define, or further refine projects. Just a regular meeting would be une réunion. Il y a une réunion cet après-midi pour discuter le projet. A couple of other meeting types you might hear are une conf call, a conference call, and une meeting, which are both anglicismes, or words that come from English words. Embaucher means to hire, and hopefully you know this word because you probably had to go through an entretien d'embauche, or a hiring interview, to get your job. Hopefully you don't hear this word too much, but licencier means to fire. But there's also another less pretty way of saying this, which we can hear in 10%.
C'est pas toi qui pars, c'est moi qui te vire. T'es viré!
Virer is another ER verb that means to fire, and as you can see from the video clip, it's a lot more informal. Some people say that licencier more means to lay someone off, while virer is to fire as if someone did something bad, but this is a distinction that's dependent on the person who's speaking. Something I also heard a lot was the verb rédiger, which is a more formal way of saying to write. It's typically used with articles and reports, basically pieces of writing, whereas écrire is more used to describe the physical act of writing, like if you were to write your phone number or your name.
Peut-être les choses un peu plus techniques qu'il ne faut pas négliger, à savoir un CV qui est bien rédigé, sans faute d'orthographe.
So I'm guessing the mistake no one wants to make is not knowing how to refer to your boss. In general, le patron ou la patronne is a pretty common way of referring to your boss. Le PDG basically means the CEO, and it stands for Président Directeur Général. That one is the more formal and specific term. Nowadays, you might just hear le boss or le chef.
Chez Netflix.
Il y a que des séries de super-héros, quoi. Les gens, ils vont se lasser. Tu sais ce qu'il faut faire? Il faut parler au patron. C'est ça.
Let's do a quiz with what we've learned so far. I'll describe a situation and you have to fill in the blank with a vocab word. Hélène est étudiante et pendant les vacances d'été, elle travaille chez une entreprise. Hélène est... Hélène est stagiaire. Take note that since stagiaire is the same function as a job position, you wouldn't say une stagiaire. It's just Hélène est stagiaire. Hélène travaille 20 heures par semaine. Elle travaille... Elle travaille à mi-temps. She works part-time. Hélène va travailler pendant seulement 3 mois pendant l'été. Elle a... Elle a un contrat de durée déterminée. Great work! One of the more frequent things you'll be asked to do in a French workplace is to update someone about something. The verb for this is mettre à jour, and the noun is une mise à jour. For example, il met à jour ses stratégies au moins tous les 3 ans. When you're discussing numbers such as items or the prices of something, you might be asked to give une actualisation, which is an update of data. Or maybe you've been asked to livrer or turn in a report. Well, the vocab is going to be very different depending on what your boss is expecting. Un bilan is a published report often given to the media. It can also be called une annonce. For example, la journaliste a fait une annonce sur les grèves. Un rapport de situation is a status update.
Notre rapport sur la pauvreté et le changement climatique démontre que, en l'absence d'une...
And une évaluation is an evaluation, such as of an employee. Elle a reçu une évaluation après avoir travaillé 3 mois. Un compte rendu is the meeting minutes or a general write-up of a situation. On a publié un compte rendu de la réunion. And un rapport annuel is an annual financial statement. Take note that it means a financial statement even though there's no word that really signals this. For our cultural note, we have la pause café, which is a little coffee break, and it's kind of the same as American water cooler talk. It's a chance to catch up with your colleagues about le weekend or your weekend, or les prochaines vacances, your upcoming vacations, or anything else that you like. So like I said, I love watching Dix Pour Cent because it has some awesome workplace vocabulary. So let's watch a clip from the show and see what other vocab words we can extract. Pay attention carefully because I will quiz you after each little clip.
Oui. Tu peux commencer tout de suite?
Il faut que chaque agent, en moyenne 80 comédiens. On les aide à trouver des rôles.
I'll give you the first word. Un agent is quite intuitively an agent. And then we have the cognate des rôles, which is roles. So think about it. Which profession do you need to find roles in? Acting. So un comédien or une comédienne isn't a comedian necessarily. It's more commonly known as an actor.
Il faut que chaque agent, en moyenne 80 comédiens. On les aide à trouver des rôles, on négocie leur contrat.
Un contrat is quite simply a contract. And think about it. What do you have to do when you're still working out the details of a contract before you've signed it? Négocier means to negotiate, and what you'll notice is a lot of these workplace vocab words are cognates, so they're not too hard to learn.
Négocie leur contrat.
On en est où de Cécile de France pour le Tarantino?
Noémie, passez-moi le contrat de Guillaume Canet, s'il vous plaît.
Voilà, tout de suite. On les accompagne dans la gestion de leur carrière.
La gestion is the management, and it derives from the verb gérer, to manage. Both of these are really important to know.
On les accompagne dans la gestion de leur carrière. En échange, on prend 10% de la rémunération.
So now we see another cognate, échange, which means exchange. And Andrea just described a bunch of work that they do. So in exchange, they're probably expecting some kind of money. La rémunération is the pay or salary, and this is where the name of the series comes from. They take 10% de la rémunération, or 10% of the actor's pay. So the tricky thing about learning workplace vocab is that a lot of them are cognates, but some of them do have different usages and different connotations than their English counterparts. On FluentU, you can see examples for all of these words and hear them used in context while watching things you like trailers and shows. Because you're using authentic content to learn French and really experiencing each word being used in a scene or a dialogue, you're committing these words to your memory much faster and for the long term. Plus, you'll be quizzed at the end of each video so that you never forget new concepts. And FluentU also understands which concepts are too easy and too hard for you so that it can push you to review the right words at the right time. There's a link to a free trial of FluentU in the description, and I really can't recommend it enough. That brings us nicely to dealing with money and types of pay. One of the more general terms you should know is le paiement, which is just the payment, and this has two different spellings, both with a I and a Y. Both are fine. Then we have le salaire, which is the salary, and les honoraires, the fees. As we can see from this grammar tip, les honoraires is a word that's always plural, like les cheveux or les frais, and it's used for professional services, like house maintenance or legal services. For such services, you may be asked to provide un devis or an estimate, like le photographe a envoyé un devis pour la publicité. Une avance is an advance payment, and une échéance is a due date for a payment.
Au report d'échéance bancaire et de garantie de l'État à hauteur de 300 milliards d'euros.
Un règlement par virement bancaire is a payment by bank transfer, and I know that's a mouthful, so let's say it slowly together. Un règlement par virement bancaire. Un règlement par virement bancaire. Une facture is a bill, and you'll see this come up in other situations as well, like j'ai reçu ma facture d'électricité. Take note that l'addition is the type of bill or check that you get in a restaurant, whereas une facture is applicable for other contexts, more professional situations. Une fiche de paye is a payslip, basically your paycheck.
Tu peux voir avec ta banque pour mettre en place un retrait automatique de ta fiche de paye chaque mois.
And all of this will be handled by la comptabilité, or la compta, which is basically the accounting department. Le bénéfice is the profit of a company, and les biens are its assets.
80% seront consommés pour acheter des biens ou des services.
The adjective brut means gross, referring to salary or profit, and le bénéfice net is net income or profit.
Selon certains économistes, les États-Unis auraient pu connaître une baisse de 0,5% du PIB, produit intérieur brut.
For our next cultural note, we have la pause déjeuner, or more commonly known as la pause déj, and this is basically your lunch break, which is a lengthy affair when it comes to France. Depending on where you work, this is going to be a 1 hour to even a 2 hour lunch break. When I was interning in France, I loved la pause déj because it was an opportunity for all of us to sit together, bosses and colleagues alike, and just talk about non-work things and have a good time. Culturally speaking, it's seen pretty poorly to eat alone at your desk, and who wants to anyways? And some French offices will have une cantine or a cafeteria, but I thought it was pretty common for people to bring their own packed lunch as well. By the way, if you're liking this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. So, which form of you should you use in the office? The informal tu or the formal vous? When you're first starting out, it's obviously best to listen to your colleagues and try to assess the situation of formality in your workplace. With that said, it's definitely pretty common for nonprofits, small businesses, or even arts organizations to use tu with everyone. Some people use tu with their colleagues while using vous with their bosses. And some higher-ups will definitely say that tu peux me tutoyer, while others will definitely prefer you to use vous. It all depends. Vous is almost always used in meetings with people outside of your organization, and in French it's far more common to use monsieur and madame, whereas in English sir or ma'am really depends on where you live in the US and can be seen as outdated. But this is really handy if you forget someone's name, because saying monsieur or madame is perfectly fine. Whereas in other workplaces you might get to work and sit down right away, in France it's really important to greet all of your colleagues and say bonjour to them at the beginning of the day. During my internship in Paris, we worked in a co-working building, so our office was shared by another company, and it was customary to say bonjour to everyone there as well. My colleagues will always say a specific bonjour to everyone in our team, and it was a really wholesome way to check in with everyone at the beginning of the day. The first time you see someone during the day, you would say bonjour, but then if you see them in passing throughout the day, make sure you say salut or just give them a head nod. Don't say bonjour again. You may have heard people say allô or coucou when they're answering the phone, but this is far too informal for a workplace. Instead, you should answer the phone by saying the name of the business or the department. For example, Relations publiques, bonjour. But of course, you might have to go through secretaries or colleagues to find the person that you need, so here are some phrases that can be handy. Pourrais-je parler à Madame Colbert? May I speak to Madame Colbert? C'est Sylvie à l'appareil. It's Sylvie calling. Je vous le passe. I'll put you through. Ne quittez pas. Ne quittez pas is the formal way of saying please hold. La ligne est occupée. The line is busy. Pourriez-vous rappeler? Can you call back? Voulez-vous laisser un message? Do you want to leave a message? Of course, video conferencing is becoming all the more common, and France is no exception. You may be asked to join une vidéoconférence, or a video conference, or simply faire un Skype, to have a Skype call. I'm not personally sure on how popular Zoom is in France, but I'm sure that you'll figure that out if you're there. Some things you might need to say are la connexion est très mauvaise. The connection is really bad. Or pourriez-vous répéter? Can you repeat that, please? You can also say la connexion a été coupée, which means the connection dropped whether you're on phone call or on video chat. If you have to show someone something, you might partager l'écran, share your screen. And whatever your endeavors are in the French business world, I hope they're interesting and that they go smoothly and that they're fructueux, profitable. If you like this video, then you have to check out our previous deep dive into the trailer of 10% or Call My Agent, especially if the little clips in this video piqued your interest. I've also included a free PDF below of everything I shared in this video so that you can refer to it anytime.